We all have a camera in our pocket these days, right? And because of that, one question has become more urgent than ever. Can you legally record what's happening in public, especially when it involves the police? Well, today, we're going to break it all down.
Okay, so picture this. You're just walking down the street, minding your own business, and you see something going down. Maybe it's an intense argument or a police stop. Your first instinct, my first instinct, is to pull out that phone and hit record. But in that moment, I bet a question flashes through your mind. Wait, can I actually do this? Is this legal?
And look, knowing your rights in that situation is absolutely critical. But here's the thing. It's not a simple yes or no answer. It's actually way more nuanced than you'd think. The answer really depends on three key things: where you are, what you're recording, and, this is the big one, whether you're capturing audio too. So let's dive in.
All right, so first things first, where does this right to record even come from? I mean, you'd probably think it's spelled out clearly somewhere, right? Well, it's a little more complicated than that.
It all goes back to the First Amendment. But if you actually go and read it, you won't find a sentence that says, hey, you have the right to film things. Instead, what's happened over the years is that courts have consistently said, look, freedom of speech isn't just about talking, it's also about the right to gather information. And a huge part of that is filming public officials, like police, while they're doing their jobs in public.
Now this next part is maybe the single most important factor that determines whether you can hit record. It is all about your location. The big question you have to ask is, are you on public ground or are you on private property?
So here's the fundamental difference. If you're in a public space, a street, a park, a public sidewalk, the rule is pretty straightforward. There's no reasonable expectation of privacy out in the open, so you can generally record video without needing to ask for permission. But the second you step onto private property, the whole game changes. And that includes places you might think are public, like a shopping mall or a grocery store. The property owner gets to set the rules, and if they tell you to stop recording, you have to stop.
Okay, this is where things get really tricky. And honestly, this is the biggest legal trap that people fall into when they're recording in public. It turns out the law is way more concerned with your phone's microphone than it is with its camera lens.
We're talking about something called wiretap laws. Now, these were originally designed to stop people from, secretly eavesdropping on phone calls. They come into play whenever you're recording a private conversation. And what's that? Well, it's basically any conversation where people can reasonably expect not to be overheard. So think two people whispering in a quiet corner of a park, not a politician giving a speech. And trust me, violating these laws can have really serious consequences.
And this is where knowing the laws of your specific state is absolutely crucial, because the country is split. In a one-party consent state, it's pretty simple. As long as you're part of the conversation, congratulations, you are the one party who needs to consent, so you can legally record it. But in a two-party or all-party consent state, you need to get the okay from every single person in that conversation before you can record the audio.
As you can see, the vast majority of the country, 38 states, are one-party consent. So that's the more common rule. But that smaller group of a dozen states, which includes some really big ones like California, Florida, and Pennsylvania, are two-party states. And that's where you have to be extra careful about recording audio.
So let me just say this one more time because it's so important. Wiretap laws are all about the sound. If you are only recording video, no audio, of a private interaction, these consent laws generally don't apply. It's the act of capturing a private conversation that triggers all these legal rules.
So how does all this apply to what we started with, recording law enforcement? Well, this is where your First Amendment rights are arguably at their absolute strongest. And you don't just have to take my word for it. This quote from a landmark federal court case pretty much says it all. The court called the filming of public officials a basic, vital, and well-established liberty. I mean, doesn't get much clearer than that. The courts have affirmed again and again that this is a core part of citizen oversight. It's a check on power. But, and this is a really important but, that right is not absolute. You cannot, under any circumstances, interfere, and that means keeping a safe distance, not getting in an officer's way, obeying any lawful orders they give you to move back, and definitely not crossing police lines. Basically, your right to record ends exactly where interference begins. So let's try to put this all together by looking at some of the most common mistakes people make and the absolute no-go zones for recording. All right, let's bust a few myths here. First, I need to get consent to film anyone in public. Nope, that's false, at least when we're talking about video. Second, filming police will automatically get me arrested. Also false, as long as you don't interfere. And third, the big one, a store is a public place. That's false too. It's private property and the owners make the rules.
And of course, there are just some common sense places where privacy is always expected, even if they're open to the public. You know what I'm talking about. Bathrooms, locker rooms, medical facilities, dressing rooms. Recording in these locations isn't just a bad idea, it's a serious violation that can lead to some really serious criminal charges.
So here it is, your legal cheat sheet. Filming on a public sidewalk? Legal. No consent needed. Recording police in public? Legal, just don't interfere. Recording audio? Well, that depends entirely on your state's consent laws. Filming inside a private business or, say, a public bathroom, that's going to be illegal. If you can just remember these key points, you'll be in pretty good shape.
At the end of the day, the ability to record in public is an incredibly powerful tool. It's a tool for transparency and for accountability. And it's a right that comes with real responsibility. So, the question I'll leave you with isn't just about what you can do. Now that you know your rights, the real question is, what will you do?